regular business meeting of the Billings City Council. Tonight, if you would stand with me for our Pledge of Allegiance, and our invocation is by Councilmember Rupsis.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States, for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and justice for all.
For tonight's invocation, I'm taking inspiration from my two college-age sons, whose passions have led them down very different paths. Our older son is spending this summer marching with the Boston Crusaders, a top-tier drum corps international program. Success in that arena depends on precision, teamwork, and the courage to perform with authenticity. The magic isn't just created through the outstanding choreography and musicality. It depends on everyone showing up fully, with pride in who they are and what they're doing, trusting that letting their individuality shine while committing to the common cause can make a difference. Our younger son participates in Design, Build, Fly, a college competition where teams design, test, and refine aircraft to solve real-world challenges. Success in this competition depends on the teams being able to balance competing demands like speed, payload capacity, agility, and accuracy, recognizing that over-focusing in one area can have harmful impacts on the overall goal. It's creative, technical, and humbling. Plans don't always work the first time, but collaboration and persistence carry the team forward. Precision and passion, innovation and inclusion, accountability to the team, a commitment to build something that lasts, and above all, the courage to show up authentically and contribute fully, even when the path isn't easy. As we go about our work tonight, may we be guided by the care, commitment, and conviction so often shown by our younger generations, unclouded by cynicism and inspired by the possibility of something greater. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Shaw,
Here.
Gulick, Neese,
Present.
Owen,
Here.
Rogers,
Here.
Kennedy,
Here.
Aspenleiter,
Absent, excused.
Tidswell,
Here.
Boyette, Rupsis, Mayor Cole.
Here. First item up, do we, Tony, correct me, did we get the May 27th minutes?
They are pending.
They're pending, okay. So that, then we'll move on to council courtesies this evening. Any council courtesies? No council courtesies. We have no proclamations. Any council reports? Seeing no council reports, we'll move on to our city administrator report. Kevin, you're sitting in for Chris, so we'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor and Council. So I just have a couple things tonight. Consent agenda item 1F, amendment 6 to the PSA for City Hall needs to be separated for some revisions, and I did pass those out to council, and it'll be that highlighted portion if you so choose to make those revisions. And then just wanted to pass on one note that Mr. John Skaggy has passed away, and if that name kind of sounds familiar, it's from the Colonial Apartments that we've been dealing with. So keep that in mind as we kind of work through this process and stuff. We're very well aware of what some of the hurdles might be that we're going to have to work on now and stuff. So just wanted to pass that information on. And there was no ex parte communication after 3 p.m. today. That's all I have, Mayor.
Very good. Kevin, I discussed those changes with you, but I don't think I have a copy of those. Do you happen to have an extra
I do.
copy by chance? Or I can share with Councilmember Kennedy too. Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, we'll now move on then to public comment on non-public hearing items. For anybody who's interested, a copy of our agenda is back by the door there. This evening, the only thing that does not have a public hearing is our consent agenda, number 1. So if someone is here and they'd like to comment on any of the items on our consent agenda, that's item 1, and then all of those subparts, this is your opportunity and only opportunity to do that. So we just ask that you come forward and tell us your name and address and keep your comments to 3 minutes. So is there any public comment now on any of our consent agenda items? Item 1.
Hello. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is John Halverson. I am the vice president of the Partners for Parks Foundation, and we're just really excited. Item J there is us. We're Really excited to be building that basketball court, Cadence Court there in Pioneer Park, and hopefully continue it in building other courts and maintaining other courts around town. So just very grateful for the partnership of the city government on that effort. Thank you.
Thank you, John, and thank you to Partners per Park for their role in creating the funding for the windbreak at the High Sierra Dog Park, and then that was vandalized or removed, and I believe the foundation also helped with the replacement. And the Parks Department got right on that and got that taken care of. So much appreciation to you and to our Parks Department. Thank you. Any other public comment on anything on our consent agenda? Any other public comment on our consent agenda? Item number 1. No one's coming forward, so we will close the public comment period on item number 1. Move on then to our consent agenda. I'll separate item 1F pursuant to Kevin's request. That's amendment number 6 on the purchase and sale agreement for the old City Hall. Are there other separations? Councilmember Rupsis.
Thank you, Mayor. I need to separate 1N1 for the purposes of recusal. One of my clients is in the bills this week.
1N1 bills for the week of May 12th. Other separations. Councilmember Neese?
I'd like to separate item number G, 1G.
1E as in Edward?
No, G is in George.
G as in George. Lease agreement, Cape Pond Development. Very good. Any other separations? Seeing none, we'll move on to the non-separated items. Councilmember Boyette?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda items except for 1F, 1G, and 1N1.
Very good. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Rogers. Discussion now on the non-separated items. Councilmember Neese?
Thank you, Mayor. I have questions for item number 1B1, 1C, and 1D.
Let's take those in order. 1B1 2025 vacuum excavator. Who would you like to pose your question to?
Debbie is approaching, so that's Debbie. Debbie, if I remember correctly from the okay, I will stay in line here. There were several bids on there. I think 3 of them that were less than this bid here, but you mentioned something about them being unacceptable, I guess. Can you, is that normal that we had 3 out of the 5 bids unacceptable? And could that be because we weren't clear enough in the RFP and we need to go back and redo this? Or what is so unacceptable about these other 3s that were lower?
So the spec was actually written it was written tight, and I think some of these other bidders thought it was worth putting in a bid, but they were material differences. So instead of, for instance, 2 cylinders to lift the back, there's 1, which really doesn't work as well. So they just submitted bids that 4 pieces of equipment that were not what we wanted to use or would work for our needs. I'm not sure why. We don't usually see that. Usually people are more in line with the spec.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was unusual to see that many on there, and I wasn't sure if do we give an opportunity for them to kind of correct their bid then when we see that many, to say, wait a minute, or do you understand this, or do the bid's the bid and that's it?
We do ask them. A lot of them don't have the ability to manufacture the equipment that we want, but so they submit their typical equipment. And like I said, in our case, our loads are just too heavy for what they were submitting on.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Very good. What was your second question?
C was the contract with Kettleson and Associates. Thanks, Debbie. So when I was reading through this, is $170,000 contract, but then it says this is only part 1.
Right.
Do we have any concept of what the next phase is going to be? And then does it depend on whatever the work that Kettleson does? Is they're going to be the ones to get this? Are they going to get the second half of this by default, or is this go out for RFP again?
So the RFP we did covered enough that if we want to continue with Kettleson after the first phase, we can. If we think that after the first phase we don't want to stay with Kittleson, we could go with someone else. The reason we split it into 2 phases was because we don't know yet what's going to come out of the public discussions. So to go into phase 2, we'd be making some assumptions about what we're going to hear from the community, and I didn't think we wanted to do that. So that's why we split it into 2 phases. The scope for the second phase should be smaller. It's basically taking what the community says and kind of showing what that looks like.
Okay, so it's going to be less than 170,000.
It should be, yes.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yep.
And so, and that's going to be the decision of staff to move forward with one way or the other, or does that come to council for approval of the second phase?
So we're very lucky on this project. We have 3 council members on that team. So we'll probably have discussions there. And then based on those conversations, we'll come back with a recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And was there another one?
There was D for the fall protection. And I had some exchanges with you regarding these fall protections, and I just wanted to clarify that to make sure that the public understands that the fall protection that the memo stated when the park would be unsafe, it's because this park, I guess, Gavin, you can kind of summarize it, but I believe it's been built with equipment since fall of 24, fenced off, so public can't use it because of it's not a traditional, there's no fall protection at all, zero. It's not that the other parks use a different type of fall protection. They're not unsafe. It's just this particular park, the way it is. And then it was a little unclear on what we were getting for $200,000 on the equipment. And Gavin, you can probably explain, kind of summarize our emails that we had.
Yeah, Mayor and Councilmember Neese. So when the memo said it was unsafe at this particular park, is that there is 0 fall protection there. And so it's basically gravel. So that's what deems it unsafe. It is an active construction site, fenced off, all of that. As far as the $200,000, that is the cost of the pour-in fall protection.
Thank you.
Okay. Council, any other questions or discussion relating to the non-separated items? Anything else before we proceed to a vote? Okay, seeing nothing else, we have a motion before us for approval of the non-separated items. If in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 If voting in opposition, please say nay. Motion passes unanimously. That brings us to our first separated item, which is item 1F, amendment number 6 to the purchase sale agreement for City Hall building with Honecker Realty and JWT Capital. Kevin, you handed out proposed language change, adding clarification about the closing date. Can you just describe that for us?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor and Council. So in the writing of the PSA number 6 amendment for this, we did extend the contingency date on some items. And with that, it did extend that to June 30th. And by default, what I'm being told by attorneys is that normally then follows a closing date, but we didn't specifically call out the closing date getting extended till June 30th of 2025. So we thought we better clarify that in the 6th amendment. So all parties are agreeable as far as staff and Honecker and Don Cape are agreeable to this, of this added language with their attorneys. So would ask that you just make that amendment.
Very good, thank you. Councilmember Boyette?
So I'm assuming we need to add this. So
We'll need some sort of a motion.
So the motion is to approve item 1F with the addition of the words closing date. The parties agree that the closing date for the purchase of the property previously set forth in the 5th Amendment as June 16th, 2025 shall be extended to June 30th, 2025. All references in the agreement and prior amendments to the closing date of June 16th, 2025 shall be deemed to refer to the new closing date.
Very good. Second, Councilor Ripsis. Any discussion? Okay, before we proceed to a vote. Seeing no discussion, the motion is for approval of item 1F with the recommended additional language relating to closing. If in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 If opposed, nay. That motion passes unanimously. Next was item 1G, lease agreement with Cape Pond Development for continued use and operation of the Park 3 parking garage. Councilmember Neese, that was your separation. Did you want to kick us off?
Yeah, Mayor, again, I've had some email conversations with Kevin regarding this agreement. And I am concerned enough to separate it because I'm not so sure that we should go forward with this agreement. The reason I do this is I dug into this and talked to Kevin about it. And we started looking at what the income and expenses were. The part of this agreement, it looks like we're paying what, $164,000-$165,000, but there's also a lot of operating costs that we're assuming with this agreement. And there's also additional expenses that come into play. And so initially, when we were looking at the numbers, there was about a $64,000 profit a year, which is not pretty good on this agreement. I had no issues. But later this afternoon, we got some final numbers on that, and we got a margin of maybe $8,000 on that. And then some other things that are going on with the development of the building across the street, with the hotel. We're going to see 2nd Avenue close, which will substantially reduce the number of hourlies that we're going to see there, which will drop that income further. Although the staff did indicate they think they can make up some of that with sales of the monthly rental. So I'm a little concerned that this contracts, we're paying a little bit too much for this because I think we're going to be losing money. And I'll give Kevin a chance to, or the parking director a chance to discuss this a little further to kind of help alleviate at least my concerns on it. But I am concerned that we're going to see, especially a 2-year contract like this with the building, that we're going to be losing money on this contract.
Very good. Kevin?
Mayor, quick point of order. Councilmember Neese, your camera's not on.
Okay, let me turn that on for you.
I assume you were able to hear everything, though, Councilmember Shaw.
Yes, could hear everything.
Okay, very good. Then Kevin or Tracy or whoever you'd like to start us at least, Kevin?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor and Councilmember Neese. We did discuss this, and I'll have Tracy come up here and she's the one that has been working on this lease pretty specifically and can give more numbers as far as parking. But what we saw moving out of Old City Hall, we did see a drop in hourly parking, mostly because we believe the municipal court system. A lot of hourly parking people would come there for municipal court. So we have seen a drop in that, but what we do anticipate is an increase then of being able to sell monthly lease spaces in that we didn't before. And she can certainly cover that a little bit further. But right now we're sitting at about 188 spots that are monthly leases on those. So we do anticipate being able to make up some revenue there. But yeah, right now, I mean, for all estimates of what we're projecting in FY26 without any of those additional changes, we're only showing about a $5,000 to the green in the numbers. But Tracy, if you'd come up here and then maybe she can probably discuss a little bit more why we think that the monthly parking could increase at this garage. So,
thank you. Tracy, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In regard, I can understand Councilman Neese's concerns. I believe it would be good to give it a year. I think that we can make adjustments. It's hard to gauge how people are going to react, even to try to figure out as far as budget-wise, what our revenue, what our expenses. I believe on both sides they're probably a little high. But I think when we can just get 1 year in and then make adjustments to kind of whatever the whatever's going on in the downtown area. And in regard to shutting down 2nd Avenue, if there's something going on and people want to park there, they'll find a way to park there. They have, when they were doing the refinishing of the Sky Bridge, they shut down Park 3, and we ended up making adjustments to where traffic was coming in from 27th Street. So they made those adjustments. We have seen the reduction in the hourly, and like Mr. Iflin said, that more than likely it was because of the courts. However, as it's kind of dependent upon what days. Sometimes the hourly parking is more full. There's a confusion, I think, too, from the public in regard to thinking, well, is this a private? They don't really understand what it's offering, that it still is. People can still park there. It's not a private garage. So it would be my recommendation to give it a year and see how it goes.
Councilor Bernice, you want to follow up there?
Yeah, so Tracy, and I don't disagree. I think a year would be good. That's why I think a 2-year contract may be a little long, because once we're in the contract, we can't make those changes. And
Sure.
so I appreciate you saying that, because that's kind of where I thought we should have a little shorter term contract, maybe with a 1-year renewal, that we could then at that time to reset if we're finding out that we're, losing some money.
Sure.
So, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I see that Mr. Hanukkah walked in. Bill, just so you know, we are discussing item 1G, the proposed lease agreement with Capon Development, and the concern is whether the city's offering to pay too much given possible construction and other things that might reduce revenues in the garage in the next year. Further follow-up or discussion, Councilmember Boyette.
So, Kevin, this is a 2-year term. Can we make it a 1 year? Can we negotiate that? So according to everyone, so maybe we should come back in a year and reevaluate it.
So Councilmember Neese, yeah, anything, we can certainly go back and try that. The other thing that's kind of being, missed a little bit, there's a big intrinsic value for the city to maintain the management of this too. Currently, we have about 80 employees that are parking in that garage, and to be able to manage that piece of it and keep things status quo while we work out some other parking issues for this building and where employees park. I mean, there is some intrinsic value that I would put on, being able to have this lease in place too. That's very helpful. And then again, for our employees that, we can control that side of it. So.
Kevin, on that topic, can I ask you, in your analysis where you came up with this $5,000 in the green, roughly, how were you valuing the city's portion of that parking? You giving us a zero value? Were you attributing regular monthly rates, some sort of bulk rate? How are you valuing that?
Yeah, so, and Tracy can jump in here if I get something wrong, but what we did is right now the employees, all their specific departments pay a rate for their employees to park in the parking garage. And so that value is then paid to parking. So it's an internal transfer. So we use that exact value to calculate, as part of the revenue side of this lease. And then, what the unknowns are is like you said, we did have some changes, municipal court moving out over there and stuff. Those are some of the unknowns that we just haven't had enough, time frame, yet to fully, see what the impact is. And we got other things that are on the horizon that could possibly change that. We had, if the county adds 2 more district courts over in the Yellowstone County Courthouse, there might be a need for additional hourly parking, in that parking garage to compensate for that. So we've just got some unknowns that we've never had before that we're trying to work through. We think we've got some pretty decent estimates, at this point. We think we can increase, some monthly leases based on that. That would certainly bring in some more of that steady income and revenue for the next 2 years.
Okay, thank you. And I apologize, one more, and then the Councilmember Rupsis. We don't need to make money on this. We don't even need to break even on it. We just don't want to lose a lot of money. So looking at the rate of reduction in hourly, because you're more familiar with the numbers along with Tracy, can you give us any feel that even if you assumed, I don't want to say a worst case scenario, but a less than ideal scenario, what kind of a risk we might be looking at? Ballpark, obviously nobody's got a crystal ball.
Yeah, so Tracy, I'll have to defer to you on this one.
Well, where we have a huge impact is real dependent upon how much snow we're receiving. The plowing of the roofs of the garages gets very expensive, and especially because we try to get it off of the building as soon as possible for a lot of different reasons, but just trying to get it into trucks and to take it somewhere. That's a pretty significant expense. It will be because of the situation on how the tax code is on that building. It was a little bit challenging trying to separate, how are we going to separate the utilities? Because it's the building and the parking all in one. And then also the taxes with the property taxes. That's all new to us. I did end up budgeting on the high side with that, just for safety's sake. But I think things are gonna turn out okay. It's not gonna be something like Park 2, how well Park 2 does. But it is important. It's, as a matter of fact, it's critical that we're able to keep these parking spaces, because it's as you know, and Councilman Gulick ended up sending something in regards to parking as well for the hospital area. There are issues there as well. And we haven't been involved with any of it really on what their planning is as they're building the St. Vincent or the Intermountain Health Hospital, but it's pushing people into residential areas. And so there may be some things that we need to, or we can try to help assist there as well. But anyway.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Councilor Roses?
Thank you, Mayor. Kevin, with Tracy's comment and where Councilmember Neese was going, that maybe we should give it a year. I tend to not like us rewording contracts up here, and I don't want to put Mr. Honaker on the spot right now. Would you like this back for a week and get it on the next agenda to approve, or should we try to do something here, or would you prefer us to just pass it as is?
So, Councilmember Neese, I feel comfortable with what was negotiated. I mean, I would like to keep the 2-year in place. We'll monitor it, and then it's incumbent on us. I mean, then we can control, the revenue side, go out there and try to sell some more spots if we think that there's going to be a deficit. Like Tracy was saying, we operated all the garages, as kind of one unit. So part of the challenge was separating out costs. And then with this going to private ownership versus with the city owning it, there were some issues there with trying to determine, okay, how much property taxes is going to be involved in this. And so I think we did put some cushion in there to make this a feasible option here. The other thing that concerns me about renegotiating is we're very short on time, and we've got one council meeting prior to when we, really do want to close on this property.
Yeah, and after 1 year, the price could also go up as well as go down, I suppose. Councilor Roses?
All right, thank you, Mayor. I'll go ahead and make the motion then to approve item 1G.
Second, Councilmember Boyette. Okay, so the motion is for approval. So you have a motion on the table. Discussion now on that motion. Any further discussion? Councilmember Bernice?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Kevin, just real quick, we talked about all the parking because the parking structure, but this is only including the parking spaces. Does this include the old offices that were in that structure?
So, Councilmember Neese, it does not include the office. That would be fully on Mr. Honaker to develop and, how he sees fit. It does include basement parking. So we maintain that, which we do have some employees that are using that at this point too.
Okay, and so when as was discussed, the fact that these are not bifurcated properties in different utilities, different taxes, so you're going to have tenants in those offices, and we're also going to be a tenant with the parking garage, and so there'll be some type of agreement for the utility splitting. Is that how that's going to work?
So I'll defer to Tracy because she worked on this end of it.
Okay, it is already in there. We ended up figuring out what we believed would work best. We also had someone from the Montana Department of Revenue come and give kind of a estimation as far as what they thought, what the parking portion would be and what the building portion would be. Anyway, there's enough in there to increase it, to try to cushion it, to make sure that we did budget enough. But I believe we have it figured out in the best way we can in the fairest way.
Thank you.
Very good. Any further discussion on the motion? Before we proceed to a vote, and Councilmember Shaw, always use your little yellow hand if you'd like, and feel free to speak up if I'm not recognizing you. Okay, we'll move ahead to a vote. The motion is for approval. Item 1G. If in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. If opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Councilmember Neese, who voted twice, but we're only going to count once. Okay. All right. So the motion passes 9 in favor, 1 opposed. Councilmember Boyette.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that we approve item 1N1 that was separated.
Second by Councilmember Kennedy. Motion's approval is for approval of item N1, bills for the week of May 12th. Is there any discussion? Seeing no, proceed to a vote. If in favor of the motion, approval of item 1N1, please say aye.
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 If opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously.
Mayor, that Tom didn't vote on that one.
Oh, I apologize. Thank you. I thank you for catching that. No vote by Councilmember Rupsis, who is abstaining. And that brings then to our only item on our regular agenda, item number 2. Tony, would you read regular agenda item number 2?
Public hearing for exempt plat of amended Certificate of Survey 3030, generally located south of Ironwood Drive and east of Woodfield Court. Staff recommends denial.
Hunter, all yours.
All righty, good evening, Council. So tonight what we have is a bit unusual. So this is an exempt plat. This is the amended Certificate of Survey number 3030, the Zimmer family transfer. So a brief explanation regarding an exempt plat. So you guys are generally familiar with subdivisions, as Dave and I have previously presented in front of you. They go through the extended process of preliminary approval, then final approval. In Montana land use law, there are exemptions to this process that certain people under certain circumstances can use in order to subdivide land without going through the process that generally ends with you guys granting preliminary approval. The one that we are going to focus on tonight is something known as a family transfer. In brief, if you are trying to subdivide property as part of a gift or sale to an immediate family member being defined as either a parent or child by blood or adoption, or your spouse, you are exempt from the general subdivision process. There are a few caveats in there that I'll get into. As part of this process, with some recent changes in state law, this currently includes a 2-year hold on the properties that are gifted or sold to the family members. So once they receive it, they have to hold on to it for at least 2 years before selling it to another party. So regarding the property in question, this is the property in question off of Ironwood Drive. This is south of Ironwood Drive and east of Woodfield Court. It is generally the remainder of Tract 2 of Certificate of Survey 3030. This is an area that is about 7.99 acres. And the family transfer is attempting to subdivide this into 4 lots. Now, the trouble here, and the reason that we are having this meeting tonight, is due to the fact that the applicants, they are attempting to subdivide this property into 4 lots, lots 1, 2, and 3 respectively, going to, and forgive me on my pronunciation here, Zania, Zahara, and Brenda Zimmerer, with the current owner, Stefan Zimmerer, retaining ownership of Lot 4. The issue at hand is, per the City of Billings subdivision regulations, whenever 3 or more parcels of less than 160 acres each, with common covenants or facilities pertaining to each parcel, have been divided from the original tract, it is considered a pattern of development. On that front, a pattern of development shall be presumed to be adopted for the purposes of evading the Montana Subdivision and Platting Act. Staff reviewed this checkprint submittal of the exempt certificate of survey and determined that this exemption creates a pattern of development and is being used to evade the act, and such an exemption should be denied. The applicant has appealed that decision and requested a hearing with the governing body, as our subdivision regulations dictate they can do. So, to that effect, it is a duty of this council to make a ruling on this determination as to whether this is, in fact, an evasion of the Montana Subdivision and Platting Act. So particularly the last point there is the main thing that we would like to address, that a claimant who attempts to engage in a pattern of exempt transactions, which result in the equivalent of a subdivision without local government review, should be denied exemption. To allow an exemption in such circumstances would obviously subvert the Act's public policy regarding prior review of divisions of land, which may have a substantial impact on public health, safety, and general welfare. To essentially summarize, these are the criteria staff used in order to make our determination. So currently, the parent parcel is primarily being used as a parcel that is, as I mentioned earlier, it was a remainder tract. The rest of Certificate of Survey 3030 was used to develop Ironwood Estates for filings number 1 through 4. And the nature, and that kind of remainder lot is primarily housing Cove Ditch. I'm sorry, Cove Creek. As we saw from the initial plat survey, the size and orientation of lots number 1 through 3 would have been similarly consistent with the size and orientation of lots in Ironwood subdivision. To that effect, lots number 1, 2, and 3 would also have been accessed from Ironwood's Drive. Lots number 1 and 2 were slated to have a shared access and utility easements along their shared property line for the benefit of lot number 3. This driveway would have been about 170 feet long, which would have required an approved cul-de-sac or turnaround, neither of which were depicted on the plot. And then, just to kind of summarize, is that this proposed 4 lots through the family transfer, which is generally consistent with the number we use to describe a minor subdivision per our subdivision regulations. We feel that the circumstances we previously mentioned we reinforce our initial determination that this is an exempt plat, is an attempted evasion of the Montana Subdivision Platting Act. Lots number 1 through 3 would effectively be a cul-de-sac neighborhood without the generally required infrastructure improvements that we usually include as part of our subdivision process. So it would be creating a minor subdivision without an SIA or a waiver of right to protest, or the usual concerns that we take a look at when making a subdivision. So with that in mind, city staff is recommending the city council deny the exempt plat of amended certificate number 3030. which would require the applicant to instead complete a minor subdivision to carry out this division of land. Any questions?
Questions for Hunter? Councilmember Denise?
Thank you, Mayor. Hunter, I asked this question why, maybe you just answered it, but I just wanted to clarify, what is it as I look at these lots being subdivided, is it that the city would not, I think you said waiver, but when this came into the city, is there not a waiver included in the annexation agreement that would still be in effect?
I would have to do some additional research on that, Councilor Neese. To my knowledge, I do not recall when this was precisely annexed into the city. But if there was an annexation agreement done at that time, that would still be applicable.
Okay. And then the other thing in this, you mentioned, so at the time of development, you said the city infrastructure would not be necessary to develop, like you're talking sidewalks, streets, gutters, things
Correct.
like that.
As our current subdivision regulations allow that as part of doing the subdivision, before you are able to sell off the lots, you'd have to install sidewalks, connections, street lights, et cetera, et cetera. By doing a family transfer with this many lots, there would effectively be a minor subdivision while skipping that step before lots are, divided and sold off.
Okay, and so this is already a developed road, I believe, that along lot 1 and 2, correct?
Correct.
And so all the improvements are already in there, except for probably sidewalks?
Yes.
Okay. And then when we're looking at this private drive, I'm assuming it's a private drive, or is that going to be a city street that they were talking about?
From the way it is described on the plat, it would be a private easement that connects lots 1, 2, and 3.
Okay, and that's where I think it's our current.
That's where our consternation is. It would effectively be a cul-de-sac without any of the improvements we usually want to see in a cul-de-sac.
Okay. So getting back to lot 1 and 2, that no improvements would be put there. Lot 3 really doesn't have any bordering public property. And so would there be that, in fact, anything on lot 3 as far as not having any city services or city infrastructure?
As at the time of subdivision, no. As when each lot would get to develop initially, they would of course still be required to pull the necessary building permits.
Right.
Anything regarding stormwater, anything like that that's usually done piecemeal with any other lot in the city would still need to be done. Our main concern is due to the way that this is being divided right now, we feel that it might be a bit uncoordinated as compared to when we usually do it through an SIA and waiver of right to protest.
Okay, and so on lot 4, of course, the borders that one street there. I'm not sure is what Ironwood Drive there, and so no, as it is again with the subdivided, no infrastructure will be put there as well. Is that correct? If we go through a subdivision process, they'd be required to put in sidewalks along there, or only if they develop lot 4, which, as I understand, it's a creek bed. It's never going to be developed.
If it was the termination, during the regular subdivision process, that they would need to install it along the frontage there, then along Ironwood, then yes, they would need to. But otherwise, doing it this way, all that stuff would happen at the time of any individual development on lot 4.
So if they okay.
Now, like you said, most of this lot is part of the floodway area, which would require its own permitting. But that would be something that would only really be addressed at the time anybody tries to pull permits for developing on that lot.
Okay, so if I can understand correctly, if this goes through, we would lose the cul-de-sac and the private drive and the ability to put sidewalks in, possibly along the entire Ironwood Drive there, including lot 4, 1, and 2, unless there's a waiver already in place from the annexation.
Correct.
Okay, last question I have is, you said this is a remainder lot. Did the owner of the lot originally own all of the land, and this is something he was left over from after all this other subdividing, or was this something?
From the history I was able to gather is the kind of parent lot you're seeing now was the leftover from developing Ironwood Estates first through fourth filings.
And he was the owner of the first through fourth filing then?
Not Stefan Zimmer, not the current subdivider. The original owner, I forget their name at this point in time, then sold it to Mr. Zimmerer, and then Mr. Zimmerer is now turning around to subdivide the property as you see.
Okay, so the lot was all bought by him at one point. Do you know how long ago that was?
Off the top of my head, no.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, the original developer would have been Shane Gunlock, followed by partnership with Steve Wells. And then just Steve after some litigation. Councilor Kennedy and then Councilor Rowan.
Just a couple quick questions. If there were 10 family members and we had 10 parceled out because of family exemptions, would you turn that one down? Because you're
As in
looking at,
if someone attempted to do the same thing, what, with 10 family members as a family
Correct.
transfer, yes, we would similarly tell them that anything more than 3 lots is a evasion of the subdivision regulations, and they would need to go through the regular subdivision process regardless.
So just so I understand this, if they would do a family exemption with just lots 1 and 2, then it would pass as family exemption.
That is correct.
And you're saying because there's 4 lots, it goes against the subdivision regulations.
Correction, Councilmember Kennedy. So it is 3 or more parcels that are the trigger here for an evasion, for a pattern of development. So effectively, like if it was just, if lots 1, 2, and 3 were combined together and then lot 4 was kind of the remainder, this would be a perfectly acceptable family transfer. But essentially it's because once they get to lot 3 and above, that's when the issue comes.
Thank you.
Very Councilmember Rowan.
Thank you. Mayor, I had a question, but now I kind of need to follow up on that because I'm not understanding. So how could a family with multiple children ever use the family exemption?
They would generally have to either go through this process that you and I are going through right now, or otherwise, generally the caveats to that 3 or more parcels thing is for parcels that are over 160 acres each. So in the abstract, if someone owned a very, very, very large empire of land and divided it amongst his kin, that way, that each is at least 160 acres apiece, then that would be valid through the family transfer system. But otherwise, if it is lots of this size and supposing I had 5 kids and I wanted to divide it amongst all of them, I would have to, per the regulations, go through our minor subdivision process.
Okay, so Mayor, I just want to follow up on that. I want to ask out of the city's attorney office, don't we face any discrimination issues if only families of 1 or 2 children can use an exemption, but families of 4 or 5 children can't?
I don't think the complete analysis. You really need to focus on what you believe the intent of the division is. So I think that there potentially could be some issues with discrimination if it was solely based on, well, not really, because you're not going to have a protected class of number of children. So no, but you could have some concern there. But I don't think the sole focus should be on just the number. There is that pattern of development under the law that it's a presumption, but then you do want to focus, has the applicant submitted any other evidence to demonstrate that the intent is not to evade the act? And I think that would be your focus. So again, I don't think you can have a discriminatory basis for that because there is no protection for family, for example, under Montana Human Rights Act or federal law.
intent? Or are we only looking at whether or not they qualify, for example, for the family exemption? Like what has happened and what can happen tonight?
Okay, so you are looking at the entirety of the application for the purpose of determining whether the division of the land is for the purpose of evading the act.
Okay.
So that's what you're determining. And the staff has come to the initial conclusion that yes. And one of the factors that the staff looked at is this pattern of development, which comes with a presumption of evasion.
Okay.
And so the applicant has the burden
To rebut.
to put evidence in front of you to rebut that.
Did the applicant have an obligation to put evidence in front of you, or is it only when they request a hearing they need to bring that evidence tonight?
I believe they were required to put the evidence in front of the staff for the initial determination as well.
And so, Hunter, what we have here is what you have, correct? Okay. And so there's a chance then for the applicant tonight to make their showing.
I believe, yeah,
Okay.
that is true.
Great. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Hunter, you referenced if they had gone through the regular subdivision process, they'd probably have to put in sidewalks. But there aren't any sidewalks anywhere in Ironwood. We wouldn't make them put in sidewalks on this one stretch where no other sidewalks exist in the entire neighborhood, would we?
At length with the public works departments during what would normally be the subdivision review process.
Okay, thanks.
Gate down 62nd as an emergency access, but this is the only way. So if you're a pedestrian or you're a bicyclist and you want to get out to Molt Road, which I would not recommend for my 5-year-old, but people do it. This is the only way to get there, is down along Ironwood Drive at present anyway. So A, do you agree with that? And is there any other way to get pedestrians out? And yes, it doesn't have sidewalks, which is also something we would never allow again, I predict. But it does, the reason that was allowed is because it has an internal trail network that allows for pedestrian access throughout the subdivision without sidewalks. But how do we get pedestrians and bikers from the 200 or 300 homes onto Molt Road?
Mayor Cole, I'm afraid I'm unprepared to answer that question. That's somewhat outside of the scope of what we're discussing tonight. So I wouldn't be able to give you a proper answer to that.
But if there was a subdivision process, that would be part of the analysis.
If this was treated as through our regular subdivision process, that would have been something we would have taken into consideration as part of our review and determination of this survey.
Okay, very good. Other questions for Hunter? Okay, Hunter, what's the plan with our applicant?
Tom Llewellyn is here tonight to answer any questions. I would say for all of the, because this is somewhat new to us, I would say we could treat this as generally we do any other subdivision brought in front of you. So after he has his moment of speaking, you guys can internally discuss it, open up to public hearing, and we go through the motions from there.
Very good. We'll turn it over to the applicant's agent, however you want to arrange that. We won't put any strict time limits on. Just ask that you be concise. And then when that's completed, we will open up for any public comment in case there is any. That works.
Okay. I got a couple things to say. First of all, they never called me to talk to me. And if they tried to, they probably wouldn't have got me. My wife died right in the middle. of this whole thing. Anyway, I have done several of these. They're all in the county. And the last one was on 56th Street West. And that was Steinmetz. And I went in, did it, and walked. They were out, had all their easements in and out. It was only the family from a LLC, same as here. It was an LLC that held the ownership. We had to take it out. We brought it back after we got them recorded, and it's worked very smooth. So it's back to where it was. That's the same thing that would happen here. We would take it and put it in the names of the two kids that'll have them, and then bring it back to the LLC. And that way, you don't have that massive number. The third lot stays with the LLC. Will go back to the LLC, and that's what happens in the future. Who knows? We know that they have to stay there for the 2 years. Now, none of you have been involved in the city when they really got into the problems with what you're talking about, fraud. It was about 40 years ago, and there was a whole subdivision, and they found everybody across the country that were relatives and sold them, and it was crooked, and they paid for it, thank God. But I've been here a little bit too long, maybe. But what we did was I did in a one for on 60, what is it, 56? I don't know, Steinmetz down there on Steinmetz on, I guess that's 64th, I think it is, where you go into from Grand to down. And one of the problems I have is nobody was called to ask for help. What's really going on here? You got the story that, they're going to have fraud. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. That isn't true at all. I've known these people for a long time. They've been in the real estate and finance business in Billings, I don't know, 40 years, 50 years. They wouldn't do anything to go crooked on this thing, neither would I. I will admit one other thing. The surveyor took it over and gave it to the city. He didn't ask me. There are some things that are technically I would like to change also, because I don't think they're the right way to do it. And I would, more than anything, I don't want you to deny it. I don't necessarily want you to approve it. I want you to give me 2 weeks to come back and have you approve it when I've made the changes that were done by a surveyor engineering firm that didn't really know where they were going with it, because they haven't been doing all those. And that makes a big difference. And, I'm really disappointed in public, the people up there. I get along with them all, I feel. I finally got Anna to give me a time when the meeting was going to be and all that. But I didn't have anybody talking to me. So, and this was brought to them in early February. And that's right in the worst of my times for the year. And so he didn't talk to me. He didn't ask me questions. You guys didn't. The city didn't ask me questions, because I think it's done perfectly, because the rest of that subdivision is not going anywhere. It's deep. It's a pond, and it's for stormwater, really. And they did it with the 3, so that the LLC still really is going to have one piece of ground that could have a home on it. The rest of it isn't going to have the home, because it's not going to pass the stormwater issues that are everywhere. The county doesn't put it in the same position as the city. Neither does the state statute. for Mr. Cole, I did use an attorney when I did the last one, and I had him read it this one, and you know him well, so I'll just tell you, I do use legal counsel because I am not an attorney. I don't have all the answers. I'm not an engineer and I'm not a planner, but I get things done the right way. By the time I asked all the questions, because I've done so many of this subdivision stuff in Billings. And before my wife died, she said that I'd only probably done 7,000 to 8,000 lots in Billings. Bill's office is in one of them. It's not that I'm trying to do anything. I don't think that there's some things that shouldn't be changed, but I think it's wrong just to not even give me an opportunity to talk to them and sit down and go through it, because they're off case. And I don't think, I had the attorney look at this one, but he didn't give me a real opinion on this because he hadn't studied city enough. But nobody's fault but me. I didn't ride the city to get after it. I wasn't in a position to be able to get a lot of things done for the first 6 months of this year, and I apologize for that. But that's my life. That's the way it is. And got a question?
Very good. Looks, request for questions. Councilmember Ripsis?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Llewellyn, if I understood the prior conversations correctly, that the law says if there's 3 or more lots in a subdivision like this, we have to presume that that has been done in order to evade the subdivision regulations, unless you present us with evidence that it hasn't been. What can you point to now that that we can use as evidence that you haven't, done this particular subdivision with the intent of evading the city regulations?
The third lot will go back to the LLC that they all came from. That's what you do. You take them out, get it all filed, and it goes back. So then you really only created 2 lots out there for the public or for somebody different than what's got it. And that's how I did it before, and that's how it's worked several times for me. And frankly, the big end of that is not going anywhere, because it's a big pond. It's for stormwater.
Mayor, just to follow up, sir, I'm sorry, but I just don't see that as evidence. Is there evidence that we can use that you're not trying to evade a lot? Because obviously, if this were approved, you could do whatever you want. It could go to an LLC or whatever. You have to hold it for 2 years. But what evidence do we have that we could stand on to allow this?
Okay. If I wiped out the third one, you'd just have a bigger lot. You could still build a house on it. But it's taxed that way also. So, I mean, if they ever want to do something, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, they could do it with the 2 lots, and that would match Steinmetz more. But it's still in a system that you got 1 more lot, so now you got to go subdivide the whole thing and take another 6 months. And I mean, it's a costly item to do. By doing it this way, all you're doing is allowing them to have 1 more lot for the LLC if sometime in the future they wanted to sell it. They can't sell it for earlier than 2 years anyway. None of them can. That's the stipulation to them. So I don't know if I answered your question, Tom, but probably not.
Okay.
I'm in a different world most of the time. I've done some of this stuff so long, it's hard for me to, and this has not been a good year for me. But
Very good. Other questions for Mr. Llewellyn? Councilmember Rowan?
Not per se a question for Mr. Llewellyn, but actually to Hunter or Wyeth. The applicant has suggested a chance 2 weeks to meet with you all again. Is that something you're open to? Or are we past that point in the process?
Councilmember Owen and Mayor and Council. I guess I'm not sure what that would do at this point. We did have some conversations with the applicant. I guess I'm a little concerned about some of that, what's been stated, trying to sort this out, that this has to come to you. This is procedural to the extent. So it's not that the staff is, or the city is trying to do something, to make things difficult. It's that the criteria and the process says that this is what we have to do. And I think Hunter made that pretty clear, but I guess I don't know a delay. I mean, the departments and all reviewed this, which is how we got to this and had to come to this process. So I don't know what further discussion would do at this point. We pretty much know what would have to be addressed. Minor subdivision review processes are fairly, expedited in the sense of compared to a major subdivision. So that's the other thing. It's not, we're not talking a year or whatever from now to get this completed at all. So,
Okay.
But no,
Thanks.
I don't see a further discussion to really help us.
Oh, okay. So if that's the case, then we really do have to deal tonight with this issue, is what I'm hearing. And I think I just want to re-ask Councilmember Rupsis's question, because I too am looking for some type of evidence. And what I heard you say, Mr. Llewellyn, and you could correct me, is that you've separated it up into 3 lots, but you intend to just stick it back under the same LLC anyhow, which to me sounds exactly like evasion. So walk us through why that's not exactly what the staff is finding.
That's really what happens, is we take them all out, the whole piece of land. We put the 2 lots or 3 lots in. We only transfer 2 lots, the front 2, and the rest of it all goes back into the LLC. So it is 2 lots separate. That's no different than Steinmetz was down the road.
Okay.
I mean, the LLC is considered an individual or a person and can own property, and they do.
I understand. I just will tell you, I was looking for something like a written statement of intent or some plans or something that actually amounts to evidence.
Well, I can give you all that one, but in all of them, we would not allow, they're not allowed for 2 years anyway when you do this stuff for that transfer, because that's what got people in trouble with all the statutes in your stuff that I got from you. After a while, somebody sent it to me. I remember all that whole mess going on.
Okay.
Because I was still in the business then.
Mayor, I want to ask just one more question. Maybe we can get to something that's a little more evidentiary here. What is the reason for not wanting some type of cul-de-sac or hammerhead turnaround for emergency service vehicles?
Well, the only reason I didn't see anybody. Nobody talked to me until really down, just lately. I didn't get in on this, and I don't blame them totally. The engineers and surveyors didn't talk to me either, and that's who took it over to them. It's their drawings, and that's the stuff in it from them. I didn't like that, because when I've been involved with them, I've always been involved with what's going on. I think you can solve problems if you have the opportunity to talk to them. And I frankly didn't have that opportunity.
Okay, thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Kennedy.
So Tom, you have 4 lots. And out of those 4 lots, you say lot 3 and lot 4 actually come back together.
Right.
So why don't you take away lot 3 and bring it as a family exemption with just lot 1 and 2, because there shouldn't be any questions on it.
I can do that.
Is that
They
agreeable?
just said yes.
So
3 or more.
He'd still have 3 total lots.
Well, previously, it's the same way it was when I did the last one for Steinmetz. I took 2 lots out, one for each son and a daughter.
You have 2 lots and then you have the
The
remaining.
third one went right back.
And so, that would not be trying to circumvent the subdivision laws.
Yeah,
And that would pass this and be able to exempt it and give those lots to children. And then you have just one big lot.
Right.
And that would clear this up.
And that's easy to do because all I have to do is have the engineer, the people wipe it off and put it there, leave it off, and leave
Yes.
it with the big track.
Yes, the question, I have one more other question, is Wyeth.
Come on, Wyatt, be on my side for a change.
They took this back and brought the new amended certificate of survey back to us without lot 3, or just lot 3, which is the large lot, which is 1 and 2, as the exemption. Can we delay it for 2 weeks, have that done, and bring it back here?
Councilmember Kennedy, Mayor and Council, I'm trying to understand you here. So are we down to 2 lots?
Well, there's lot 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, I know.
So we have lot 1 and 2,
Mhm.
which are exempt, are lots passed on to family members. And then lot 3 would be the whole lot with the remainder with the lot.
Going off and coming right back.
I think you're still, I think we're still at 3 lots, I guess is what I'm trying to decipher. Yeah. go
But you
ahead.
only have it for a short period of time.
Councilor Kennedy, to clarify something, the way the subdivision process works, even with this, is, lot 4, as kind of described on this plat, it wouldn't be like a remainder. That would be lot number 4. So even with your describing, we would still end up with 3 lots, which is per the rules and evasion of the subdivision regulations. And when this, and to your credit, when this initially was reviewed by staff, those comments were made to the engineer at the time, and we had not received any further submittals addressing that fact, and now we're here.
Now, the question I have is, if they bring this back with what I'm saying, even though it's 3 lots, we have to make the decision, are they circumventing the subdivision lot, the subdivision rules and guidelines, or are they not? And I would say with the 2 lots and the remainder, they would not be.
Okay, we're getting into real discussion. We haven't had our public hearing yet, so I'd like to avoid that and confine this really to questions, factual questions to the applicant or the applicant's agent. Or is there anything else for Tom? Okay, not seeing anything. Is there anything else from the applicant before we open up for public hearing?
No, and I take blame for not following through. Toughen up, I'm sorry. I will take that.
No need. So, okay, we'll open it for public hearing. So Tom, you can take a seat and we'll see if there's any public comment on this. This is a public hearing. It was set for public hearing. So if anybody would like to comment on item number 2, please feel free to do so. Just ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes and tell us your name and address. Is there any public comment on item number 2? Any public comment on item number 2? Before I close the public hearing, this is a public hearing. No one is coming forward, no one's standing up, so I'm going to close the public hearing. And I'll close the public hearing and back to council. Council, how do you want to proceed? Councilmember Bernice?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll get a motion on the table. Having conducted a public hearing, considered written and spoken public testimony, I move to deny the exemption of plat amended certificate number 3030 and require the applicant to complete a minor subdivision as required by staff.
Second by Councilmember Tiswell. Did either of you want to address your motion?
I guess I have more of a question for our legal counsel because as it was explained to us, and this is first time, that we've seen this, the evidence had to be brought to by the applicant. Did you see any evidence that showed that they were not, according to statute, evading this?
For my review, I did not see any evidence presented to suggest that it was not evading.
Okay. And when he mentioned that they were taking the parcels, subdividing them out of that and putting them back into the LLCs, is that not the process of evading the subdivision process?
without doing a legal review of that, it certainly sounds like evading.
Okay, thank you.
See, Councilmember Tiswell, you had the second. Did you want to address your motion? Okay. Further discussion on the motion. Councilmember Shaw, no sign, there's a little yellow hand. Any further discussion before we proceed to a vote? Okay. I don't see any discussion, so we'll move to a vote. The motion is for consistent with the staff recommendation that you see in the proposed agenda to deny exempt plat status and potentially require the applicant to complete a minor subdivision. They're not required to do that, but at least that's the logical conclusion of this, I guess. So if in favor of Councilmember Bernice's motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. If opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Motion passes with sole vote being Councilmember Kennedy. And that concludes item number 2. I guess I should have just clarified why this is not like zoning denial. In theory, they could come back tomorrow with another application or a subdivision application, correct?
Mayor and council, correct. Yeah, you can move forward with a minor subdivision application process right away.
Yeah, or theoretically this in some revised form, but
Right, or another exempt plat, a
whatever.
plat for
Yeah,
exemption,
okay.
exactly.
Okay. All right, very good. Thank you for that clarification. That concludes item number 2, brings us to public comment on non-agenda items. So things that were not on our agenda tonight. If anybody's out there who would like to comment on anything that was not on our agenda, you're welcome to do so. Just ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes and come up to the podium. Tell us your name and address. Is there any public comment on things not on our agenda tonight? No one's coming forward, so I'm going to close the comment period. So close that public comment period. Council initiatives. Councilmember Ipsos?
Mayor, if you'll indulge me just a second, it's not an initiative, but I did want to point out, and I didn't jump in when you had made your comment, thanking Partners for Parks Foundation getting on the High Sierra Park and working with the city so quickly on that. So thank you to those guys. But I wanted to point out as well, Jerry's Fence, I believe, replaced all the wood and installed that at no further charge to the city. So we wanted to thank them as well and certainly appreciate their commitment to making that work. Jerry's Fence?
Jared Fence.
Jairus?
Jairus, yeah. Jares. Email and phone number. And thank you very much. We do appreciate that. With that, then, Council, we are adjourned.